Mr. Speaker, to say that the Democrats spend like drunken sailors is an insult to sailors. This bill cuts wasteful spending. If there's any scorecard to be kept between Democrat speakers and Republican speakers, well, it should be on spending.
My friends have accomplished absolutely nothing in their majority. I mean, that's a tragedy. I mean, they've barely struggled to do the basics, like keeping the lights on, but they need Democratic help to do that. And they've blocked the majority of their own members' amendments. You can't make this stuff up. This has been a waste of time. You want to talk about a waste of taxpayer money? It is the Republican majority in this House.
You know, I had the great fortune to share breakfast with Justice Antonin Scalia before he passed away, several members of Congress. And one of my colleagues asked the Justice Scalia, he said, "When are you going to help us restore constitutional balance of government?" And Scalia scoffed at him. He said, "What are you talking about? You are the most powerful branch. In fact, every tool you need is right there in the Constitution to restore constitutional balance of government." And another of my colleagues said, "But impeachment is so unwieldy and we can never get that through the Senate." And Scalia said, "I'm not talking about impeachment. I'm talking about the power of the purse. It's right there in the Constitution. You have it. You are the most powerful branch, and quit complaining about the things you're funding, or quit funding the things you're complaining about." And so that's what this bill does. It eliminates more than 70 unnecessary and wasteful programs and initiatives, including 14 polarizing diversity, equity, and inclusion offices and programs. I don't find diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Constitution. It's just not in Article 1, Section 8. It's not there for us to do. And so we're eliminating those programs. Defunds at least 15 executive orders. What are executive orders? Are they laws? No, they're not laws. The lawmaking authority is here. We should probably defund every executive order, but this defunds 15 of them: rules, memoranda, and other Biden administration policies that usurp our congressional authority to make law. This bill reduces wasteful spending on climate change initiatives, prevents the FBI from using its construction balances to build a new headquarters. Why is that important? Because they've become weaponized against the American public.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think for the viewing public who is watching this, they may take note that the gentleman didn't respond to anything that I said in my opening remarks. I will point out for the record, just so people understand, that over half of the amendments that were offered to this bill were rejected. They were blocked. They were blocked by the Republican majority on the Rules Committee. 170 amendments, many of them Republican amendments, I should point out, were blocked. And it was not because they added to spending, they were just blocked. And the point I was trying to make, and I'll make it again, is that my friends on the other side of the aisle, my complaint with them is they have accomplished absolutely nothing. They have wasted their time in the majority. The gentleman talks about all these deep cuts in some of these appropriation bills that, I'll be honest with you, I object to them because they're going to hurt people I represent, but he talks about all these cuts. None of these bills are ever going to become law. We spent all of last week debating 2 appropriations bills, the transportation bill and the financial services bill. I mean, we worked overtime, late into the night, debating all these amendments. And guess what? They pulled them. They pulled them. They're in the majority. They can't even pass the crummy bills that are being sent from Appropriations Committee to the Rules Committee. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And the bill we're talking about today, I'm not even sure this is going to pass, or I wouldn't be surprised if they pull this and the labor HHS bill as well. I mean, this is not how you run Congress. We're supposed to bring things to completion. The bill before us today was so bad the full Appropriations Committee didn't even mark it up. Why? Because they probably couldn't get the votes to get it out. A whole bunch of stuff was snuck into this bill at the last minute. In fact, I will repeat, this bill did not go before the full Appropriations Committee. It was not reported out by the full Appropriations Committee. Why? Because it is so extreme and so awful they didn't think they had the votes. The same thing last week. Again, 2 appropriation bills. We wasted all this time on the floor talking about those bills, and then they pulled them because they didn't have the votes. You know, and here we are again voting on another extreme bill that will probably, in all likelihood, be pulled. And when the gentleman is making the case that somehow amendments are blocked because, you know, they're not rule compliant, okay, all right, that's an argument to be made, but that's not the case with the overwhelming majority of the amendments that were blocked. Again, I said to my Republican friends who are watching, a majority of your amendments were blocked, and you guys are in charge. I get it, they blocked 72% of the amendments I've offered, which, by the way, are rule compliant, but they blocked the majority of Republican amendments. And the gentleman says that, you know, we were just blocking amendments that are not rule compliant. Last night in the Rules Committee, we offered amendments to strike out language that was in the bill, that is in this bill. It is totally rule compliant. We offered an amendment to strike the anti-abortion riders. We had a vote, and the gentleman voted with the majority of Republicans to block us even being able to offer an amendment to strike the anti-abortion riders. I guess they were afraid they would lose, or afraid of the debate, or afraid to put vulnerable members in a tough position, whatever. We had an amendment striking anti-LGBTQ riders. Again, all the Republicans, the gentleman included, voted to block it. Totally rule compliant. We had an amendment striking the anti-gun safety riders that were added into this bill. Totally rule compliant. Every Republican, including the gentleman, voted to not make our amendment in order. Yeah, so this is what you call smoke and mirrors. I mean, we had an amendment striking their anti-climate riders. Again, it's in the bill. We're not putting something new in the bill. This is their bill. Totally rule compliant. Every Republican, including the gentleman, voted to block that. So let's not have this, you know, kind of fantasy debate where we're saying, oh, all we did was we kept out amendments that were not rule compliant. Bottom line is, you're afraid of the debates. My friends are afraid that they may lose on some of these issues. They also know that the majority of the American people do not like their position on women's reproductive rights, where they want a national abortion ban. They also know that a majority of people in this country are sick and tired of bigotry against the LGBTQ plus community. They know that a majority of Americans are sick and tired of the rising level of gun violence in this country. They also know that a majority of Americans believe climate change is for real, and they want us to do stuff to try to reverse the current trends. But they blocked all these amendments. And I have the report from the Rules Committee last night with all the votes and the amendments, all rule compliant. All rule compliant. So, you know, let's get real here. We are here today to, again, talk about an appropriation bill that is not only extreme, that probably at the end of the day not even going to be able to pass it with Republican votes. And it will certainly never become law. It will certainly, it's a joke of a bill. They wouldn't even bring it before the full Republican-controlled Appropriations Committee. And then, or they're going to pull it. And that's it. We have you know, you want to talk about wasting money? All the money we wasted last week debating bills that are going nowhere. Or what about the money that we wasted while for 26 days we had no Speaker of the House, but had to keep everybody here while they try to fight amongst themselves on which member of the Republican Congress they disliked the least so they can move that person forward as Speaker. I mean, give me a break. I reserve my time.